And we are live and in living color at
I
exactly
feel alive.
10:10, Michael. Can you
I
believe that?
feel alive. Beautifully done. Happy New
10,
Year.
10.
Our first show of 2024 shows that we mean business, and we're here on network time, top of the hour. Tick, 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 bleep,
We'll have to
plinks.
get that little bing that CBS uses. I love that. You
They
know,
call it
and I,
they don't do it anymore because there is no CBS. It used to be
well, I
called
was just going to say
PL.
they probably have it in a closet somewhere because Odyssey is close
Yeah,
to filing for bankruptcy. So
they
they'll
got
probably
deal.
sell it to us.
In fact, to celebrate the new year, Vinny, the two radio groups, Salem and Odyssey, were both delisted by NASDAQ. You're off the list. You guys think you're trading stock, but we've been watching and we know you're not.
Yes,
So off you go.
all those personalities who took stock futures as compensation said, "Here, let us give you a little bit of this CBS stock, this really Odyssey stock that's worth now nothing. Is what your compensation package is now worth."
Nobody wants any of this stock. You've got some. You can trade it across the desk, but you have to tell the guy, you have to do it verbally. There's no electronic trading for Odyssey or Salem. Praise the Lord.
Well,
There was a religious organization that got into politics and it bit them on the financial arse.
well, Michael, I mean the whole business, the whole industry is a wreck right now. You can't. I mean, I don't know how anybody looks at a radio station and say, and listen, we love radio. I mean, we would be on a radio station in a flat out second if one offered us a job. But the reality is that these radio stations are struggling, and why are they struggling? Because they are continuing to do the same old thing.
They can't bring themselves to do research and development. In fact, it's an industry that has no research and development. They don't try anything. They don't make an effort to evolve, to innovate, to invent a new way to do radio. They just won't.
Well, I mean, all you have to do, you don't even have to do research, Michael. All you have to do is pick up the trades, what's left of them, and look
Yeah.
at the hottest the hottest categories in audio are. What are the hottest categories in audio?
Besides Taylor Swift, there's nothing.
No, podcasts. Podcasts. People listen to podcasts. They download podcasts. They listen to them in their car. They listen to them on their phone. They're more accessible now than they've ever been. That's what people listen to.
And you
If
know
you're
what that
not on
you know
Apple,
you know
if you're
what they
not on
would
Apple, you're not on Spotify, you're not on those podcast platforms, you're not going to get heard.
Vinny, what they used to call that in radio was targeted broadcast, targeted content, specific content. No, we're not going to talk about hi everybody. No, you're talking to everybody. Stop that. Hi folks. No, we're not talking to the folks. We're talking to individual people who want a specific topic. Well, I was going to talk about stuff today about Los Angeles. No, that's not targeted enough. Restaurants in Los Angeles, there you go. The music industry in Los Angeles, now you're talking. The film industry and who's casting in Los Angeles, yes, this is something people want to know about. You want to
Well,
talk
people in
about the
Los
green
Angeles do. But
you
if
want to
you're in
talk about the
Seattle,
green you want to talk about the Green River Killer in Seattle? You want to talk about uh, Pete Carroll's win-loss record and how it lines up with the moon and the Mercury retrograde? Yes, people will listen to that. Targeted content.
well, and again, no, the 3 hour radio show, in my opinion, is dying. Is dying. I've said this now for a couple of years. Is that some radio stations, some radio group ought to have the nerve to put on 1 hour shows. In essence, do a whole day of podcasts so that people can pick out and listen to what they want to listen to.
And you know, Vinny, it has to be 1 hour shows, one after the other, that are great, that are worked, that are
Well,
written, that
right.
are produced. Because radio's idea for a 1 hour talk show is, well, by the time we play the commercials, your show's really only 40 minutes long. So if you just get in here today, after you do the news on 5 radio stations, and you can't do it once, you have to do it 5 times and sweep off the front of the radio station because the snow is in front of the door, and then sit down. Well, you can wing it. You can let it fly. Whatever comes to mind will fill those 40 minutes.
Well,
People, that's why there are no professionals in radio anymore, because people in radio can't organize their thoughts, can't write them down, can't produce a program on a daily basis that competes with radio, that competes with podcasts, that competes with cable news, that
see, I
competes with the
disagree
History
with that,
Channel.
Michael. I think there are lots of talented people in radio. I think the more talented people, I think the restrictions that are put on people that are doing terrestrial radio are by and far crippling the industry.
Yes, that's
And
always been the case, hasn't it?
and at some point, somebody, maybe when these companies go bankrupt, maybe when they have to, or maybe when somebody at the FCC gets the idea that the airwaves belong to the public, and that the public is not listening to radio because it's not getting what it wants. Now, you can say that the public is getting what it wants because they're going to podcasts. They're listening to a Jimmy Kimmel podcast. They're listening to their stars, the people that they're interested in a little bit more, who sit down and do a podcast. I listen to Bill Maher's podcast. I listen to a few other different podcasts of people that entertain me, that I want to hear information from people that I trust. The MAGA people listen to the Joe Rogan podcast or the Aaron Rodgers podcast or whatever podcast it is. And that's why it is imperative that if you want to survive in what is happening today and you want to go where the money is that you have to have shows that translate into podcasts. People's attention spans are no longer 3 hours.
When the last time you listened to Cairo, what was the topic of their talk show?
You know what? I haven't listened to Cairo in so long. I listened for the Seahawk game, and where the Seahawks were viciously beaten by the Steelers
It was
last.
vicious, wasn't it?
Viciously beaten by the Steelers,
Yeah.
beaten enough to make you wonder what the heck they were thinking. Did they not figure that the Steelers and Mike Tomlin, who is a coach on a par with Pete Carroll, and I think one of the best, if not the best coach in the NFL, besides Bill Belichick, maybe, and he's having his problems, and certainly one of the most underappreciated coaches in the NFL,
Great coaches with weird teams,
came in
unreliable
here
teams.
and did what everybody thought they were going to do: run the ball at a Seahawks defense that doesn't seem to be able to stop the run. Run it up their middle, run it right up the gut, right, put it right between them, boom, and and they didn't have an answer for that. Geno Smith is not an answer for that.
What about the linebacking core? That used to be a point of pride.
They weren't backing anybody up on Sunday. Was it? Yeah, Sunday. That's for sure. It was, I mean, there was certainly a few good pieces to the game for the Seahawks, but by and large, the Steelers came in here with a backup quarterback on the road and spanked them. Mason Rudolph is not an NFL grade starting quarterback.
But for the last 2 games, he's been their hero.
But all he's had to do is hand the ball to somebody.
He can do that.
He can do that. He can work the sidelines. He can work the edges. He knows how to hand the ball off. He doesn't have to be a hero. All he's got to do is get the ball to a running back, get the ball to a tight end, and apparently beat the Seahawks.
So, Vinny, I did not win the $700 million lotto, but if I had, and I bought a radio station and I made you the program director so that I could sit in the front office and smoke dope, what
Which
format?
you have to if you made me the program director.
Well, usually it's the program director who gets in trouble with stuff like that, but I'm putting you in charge.
Yeah, and I'm good at getting in trouble, so we would be okay.
Well, as you get in trouble, what is your format?
I think what I am doing is in my morning hours, I'm doing locally focused news. Locally focused news, not
So you have a news staff of 5 people, perhaps.
you got to have a news staff. Yes, if you want to do this and you want to do it right, you have to have a news staff, or you have to have certainly a these days, oddly enough, you could probably put together a citizen journalist corps of people who would tell you what's going on in their neighborhood, tell you what's going on the highways, and you could include people in that from probably 9 o'clock in the morning till 4 in the afternoon or 5 in the afternoon, maybe even 6. I do 1 hour programs, 1 hour podcast type programs. Pick out subjects, make them strong, get local personalities who are strong. Gene Stout doing music, or Joel, that type of person, the music critic doing music, talking about music. The automotive expert talking about automotive, the political expert spend an hour talking about politics, and I would take phone calls.
Podcast with calls.
A voice of the people. I think
the voice of the city.
the most ridiculous thing I hear on radio today is a host sitting there reading Twitter feeds, reading Instagram feeds. It's the laziest form of radio that you can possibly do.
Yeah.
And I would have
just like reading from the newspaper.
Right. And I would have guests. I would be guest intensive. I would have experts on my shows. If I have a tech guy doing a podcast, he's got to have he's got to have a tech guy doing an hour every day, or an hour, depending on. He's got to have guests that know what's going on. He's got to get the David Pogues. He's got to get the people that know the industry. You want to be able to establish a radio station so that you hear it here first. Now I'm talking about spoken word format, of course.
Right.
And then in the afternoon, do another news block. And boy, the evening should be interesting. I'd find the wackiest person I could find.
Gypsy Boots.
I'd find the wackiest person I could find and put him on in the evening. I'd find the next Bobby Dale, the next person who would, if you had to go someplace in your car, make you want to make sure that you had your radio on in your car when you were going there.
By the way, we lost a couple of disc jockeys during the Christmas holidays. First being Jim Ladd of KLOS and KMET.
Yeah.
Who was honored with being the subject matter of a Tom Petty song called The Last DJ. And then just recently, Jim Carson, who was at KFRC and KHJ and K-Earth and KGB and KBLA. A great Bill Drake jock who excelled in mornings, afternoons, wherever they put him. And it's just sad to lose such talent like that, who were so professional, so smooth, so able to sell the format with energy and conviction and just a God-given talent. So it's sad to see those guys go, for two reasons. It reminds me of all our mortality.
Yeah.
But more than that, it reminds me of how good radio was at one time, when it was the changes in society that made music so important in our lives. Music became a central unifying sociological force. And radio had the brains, for once in its life, to reflect that in its formats. And there was room in the radio world for KMET and KHJ to exist simultaneously in the same market, with a ton of talent and a lot of great music to go around, and the ability to execute those formats with top of the line professionalism. So I bemoan the fact that those jocks are gone, and I'm just lucky to have heard them in their prime.
Yeah, well, Michael, we're at a place where so much is changing.
Like democracy, I was just thinking, democracy is a juggling match right now.
Everything is changing. We don't know that we're going to be. We don't know what you're going to be allowed to say on the radio a year from now. You may not want to say anything on social media or on the radio a year from now. This 2024 that we've just rolled into here is an extremely important time in our lives, not just for our lives, but for the lives that we will leave for our children and for future generations. What will we leave them? And it is so important. It is so incumbent upon us to pay attention to it. And not that we can make the difference that they can, because I think that the people who are going to have to go out and knock on doors and elect somebody who's going to preserve democracy as opposed to taken away from us,
just so they could get things done. Hitler was the most inefficient leader ever. He sold them on this idea that he was going to clean up Germany and get things done and make the Jews pay for what they had done to their nation. But in reality, he turned it over to a bunch of yahoos who, fortunately, were evil, insufficient to their needs, and incompetent enough so that the war was lost. Now we're fighting another war, and Donald Trump is every bit as conspicuously unable to govern or lead. He can run. He's great at rallies, but he is zero when it comes to producing something. So all he can do is destroy things. He comes to your party and he breaks all the cutlery because he can't figure out how to get a cup of coffee.
Yeah, but I don't think we could just blame it on Donald Trump. You see, I think that's a trap that we fall into.
Well, he's symbolic. He's symbolic of everybody who loves him.
Right. It's so easy to just look at him, and the media is feeding us him. He gets he gets 10 times more coverage than anybody else. Anytime he farts, they report about it. And it ain't pretty.
It's not pretty.
So it's not. It's a combination of things. It's a public that thinks that democracy doesn't matter.
Doesn't count anymore. It's insufficient to our needs.
That it had its chance, and now we want something different. Now we want protection.
One party is plenty.
America first. We want people who don't look like us to go away. We wouldn't let our grandparents into the country anymore.
Not even close. We wouldn't
And
let the boat get dock in New York.
right, we would turn the boats back in New York. We would close the borders. We would say to people,
Just sink a few boats and they'll stop coming.
right, concrete over those words, give us you're tired, you're poor, yada, 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 on the bottom of Statue of Liberty. They don't mean anything. We want 20% or 30% of this country to run it.
If you're going to be if you're going to be an immigrant, you got to be American.
We want South Africa. I mean, that's what that in essence is what people see, and I'm saying not all people, but there's a significant amount of people in this country that want South Africa.
And
They want
what we're talking about is 70 to 80% of the entire Republican Party.
a ruling class that makes the decisions, lines their pockets, controls all the minerals, controls all the means of production for their profit, not for the people. You keep the rich people up here, you keep the poor people down here.
But
You
rich people, guess what color they are?
eradicate the middle class. You don't want people to be middle class. You want them to be subservient to the rich people.
Sounds good to me because South Africa has always been such fun.
Sure. I don't know if you watch, you probably don't watch 90 Day Fiance, but there is a couple on there where the husband is in South Africa. And the wife, I think, is from California. And she went to South Africa to go live with the husband and found it to be a harrowing experience where you can't leave your compound at night.
And for good reason, probably.
Because you're afraid that you're going to get carjacked, hijacked, murdered, whatever it is.
Can you get low-jacked?
I don't know. If you have one in your car, I guess you can. But, and, I look at that and I say to myself, we're not that far from that here. We're not that far because people there don't seem to respect each other. They don't, everything is a war.
And where did they learn that, I wonder?
Everything is an us and them. There's no we. And I think we're getting close to that in this country. And I think that we need somehow to make a last-ditch effort to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Well, that's the challenge of this year, this election year.
That is our job in 2024, is to make sure that that does not happen.
And because there are more of us than there are of them, to put it in school ground terms, play our terms, all you got to do is suit up, show up, and do the right thing, and all will be well. But if you get caught with malaise, if you get caught with disillusionment, if you get caught with laziness, if you get caught with it's not going to make any difference anyway, you, the authority, call a game before we even play it, then we got a problem.
Well, I don't know how you change the mentality. I don't know.
I think we've learned that that's a gradual thing that doesn't happen overnight.
Right. It's easy to just point to social media and say, well, social media, but if social media worked like that, it should work both ways.
You think there'd be an upside somewhere?
There is. There is an upside to social media. It's just that we have come to a point in this country where we hear something and we don't investigate it. We see something on social media and we don't. What is it? 85% of people under 25. I forget what the number is, but there's several polling several surveys out that say that a large number of people under 30 years old get their news from TikTok.
Now, the problem with that is, and I realize that I did news for a long time, so I look at things a little differently than the average human being. When you see a story, whatever the platform may be, whether it's Facebook or TikTok or Instagram, do yourself a favor and check the source. Is this videoblowup.com? That's not a news source. Is it CBS News? Is it Associated Press? Is it Reuters? Do they have a source that they can be proud of that they will tout as ABC News says? Or is it stinky.com making up another story about how the raccoons in Carpinteria have learned how to operate driverless cars and are driving taxis all over town for profit?
It's Drudge Report stuff. It's the Steve Bannon stuff. It's the politically slanted. I have a certain view, and I will put that into my news. It's Fox News. It's the total and lack of respect for the audience that says that you can lie to them.
In fact,
that it's okay to lie to your audience. It's okay to make stuff up.
That's a pact that we have. You're the source, and I'm the audience. Please lie to me today, Vinnie.
And if you lie to people with what they want to hear,
they're thrilled.
Well, then you're hitting the psychological button in them that says that they're right. And nobody, a long time ago, many years ago, you and I did an interview with Pete Rose. And I noticed something in the interview that stuck with me then and has stuck with me since that interview all throughout my radio and television career.
What was that?
And every time, not every single time, but many times when I would ask Pete Rose a question, or you would ask Pete Rose a question, he would start out by saying, "That's a very good question." And he would use our first name. So when he was going to lie to us,
he made it personal.
The button that he hits in so many people that he talks to is that button of, boy, did you ask a great guy like me a great question.
Now here's your great answer.
Now here's your answer. It could be total bull, but you're sitting there feeling, wow, Pete Rose just paid me a compliment. He thought I was pretty smart, and this guy's Mr. Baseball. So if he thinks I'm smart, and you hear it time and time again with radio hosts, that somebody will come on, they'll say, "Man, what a great question." They'll chat up the host. And I remember thinking about that. During the interview, it hit me. After the interview, it hit me even more. And it taught me one of the best lessons that I learned in a career. And that is, don't fall for the guy chatting you up. Because there's a piece of you inside, a piece of your ego, even though you think you don't have an ego, a piece of your ego that will be fulfilled when somebody says you're right, when they reinforce your belief.
Even though they're just treading water, coming up with the answer.
Right. Even though they're probably sitting on the other end of the phone thinking, right down a scratch pad, listen to this idiot I'm talking to.
There's a solution for that, but it's tough, Vinnie. I when I suggest this, I know that everyone who does interviews will tell you that it's very tough to do it. But you can say, and it has been said many times, "I'm sorry, Mr. Rose, but you didn't answer the question."
Right.
What bat did you use?
Right. I heard Brianna Keeler yesterday say that to somebody she was talking to. She had the head of the main Republican Party on,
Who was never going to answer any questions.
and she was asking him questions about Trump, and he was giving her a song and dance. But he's calling her, oh, Brianna, I watch you all the time, but and he's chatting her up, man. But she's too much of a professional to fall for that. She interviewed too many people to fall for that. So immediately after, she says, but you still didn't answer the question.
It's a great
My,
technique, and
my
it should be
question
used.
is, boom, boom, boom. And he
Right.
tried it again. And finally,
Yeah.
she just cut the interview. She just said, all
That's
right,
it.
thank you very much. She realized that this guy is not asking us questions as much of a get as he might be. He's only on there spewing his agenda.
That's right.
And that's and that's the Pete Rose effect.
If you'll see an anchor interview a spokesman for the Israeli IDF, what happened today? Well, first of all, I just want to say that President Biden said, wait a minute, I didn't even bring up Biden. As we said during World War II, no, wait a minute. We're talking about today. What did you guys do in Gaza today? Well, we spoke with President Biden about that. Just for a minute, listen to what I'm saying, and then answer the question. And you can't get a straight answer out of those dudes because they don't have a straight answer to give you. And the idea that they're on 3 times a day, 4 times a day, burns my britches, as Yosemite Sam used to say. No, he used to say, my biscuits are burning.
Biscuits are burning.
My biscuits are burning.
Well,
Well,
but that's what
it takes guts, and it takes perseverance to get an answer out of someone who is trained and primed not to give you an answer, not even to give you information, not even to give you the time of day or the weather report.
right. They'll come on because they want to get their agenda. They want to get their point of view on. And this is how, to me, as I look at these conservative news organizations, I'm
By
not
the
just
way,
conservative, I'm sure that liberal news organizations do it too. They hit that point in a person's ego that says, you're right. You thought that they were diddling little kids in a pizza parlor in Washington? You're right. And they hit that. And that's how the conspiracy theory grows, because many people, I'm not saying all people, but many people, especially people that seem to be on the right, who've been kind of felt disaffected for so long, somebody comes along and says that you're right.
it happened. It's happening today.
You're right. You've sat here and you've watched this person get this and this person get that and this person get this and this person get that. And, now they're telling you that being gay is all right in your school. And now they're telling you that, that kids reading Catcher in the Rye is okay. And Last
Or even
Exit to Brooklyn is okay.
and they make the assertion that Black Lives Matter when we know
And
they
then they're
don't.
telling you that Black Lives matter more than your life. Nobody ever says that, but that's what they
That's what
you
they
know.
hear.
And on the other side, you have the liberals saying, well, if you say all lives matter, you must be a racist.
Well, because it's the dog whistle version of Black Lives Matter.
You know,
Besides,
it's
isn't it true that if Black Lives Matter, there's less matter for white people? What are white people going to do when Black Lives Matter?
no. It's that, first of all, every life, human or animal, or every life matters. There aren't lives that don't matter. So how much you choose to let them matter. Do you let them matter equally to your life?
What about spiders?
I don't kill spiders, Michael.
What do you do?
I don't kill spiders. I pick them up and I throw them outside. I was taught that if you kill a spider, it's bad luck. That if you kill a spider, you will receive bad luck. That it's bad juju.
Well, what kind of luck do you bring to yourself when you go around picking up spiders?
I pick them up with a piece of paper and throw them out the front door. But I don't squish them. You won't catch me squishing a spider. I'm not crazy.
I like to go case by case on the spider thing. You ever seen a cane spider in Hawaii? They're about as big as
No,
your
but
they're about as big as your
if
hand,
that's the case, I'll run away from the spider.
and they can jump. Not only can they're happy to jump.
Well, yeah, I guess if I'm confronted with a spider that's going to kill me,
Or just pick you up with a piece of paper and put you out the front door.
then it's then it's me or him, well, or her, no matter what, wondering what the spider is. That's a different story. But it's always that it's always that case by case thing with the spiders. Anyway, we're going off on a tangent. So to me, that Pete Rose effect, which I will call it, it's something that conservative media does so well, is they make the person feel like they're being agreed with
At long last.
by somebody on the radio, by somebody standing in front of a crowd of people. And that's what Trump does so well. And that's what these other people do so well. Marjorie Taylor Greene gets money because she spits in the face of authority. And she makes the other people who want to spit in the face of authority feel like she's doing it for them. What is the central theme of the whole Trump thing this year? Is going to be, it is, they're doing this not to me. Who are they doing it to?
They're doing it to you, and I'm your man.
Doing it to you. They're doing it to you.
And how's that going to ever end? Well, elect me, and I'll show you.
I should be put on a cross.
Not a bad idea.
And hoisted.
A wonderful idea.
Because I'm sacrificing for you. They're persecuting me because of you.
I'm your retribution.
The only prayer you have
is me
in getting even with all of these people who want to introduce all of this stuff like Social Security, payments for this and reparations for that and this and that and the other thing. The only retribution you have is to elect me.
I'm the only guy who can fix it.
I'm the only guy.
See, that's a simple solution. You don't have to figure out if it's a regular screwdriver or a Phillips head. Just call the guy who's got all the screwdrivers and he'll fix it for you. And you know what? He's the only guy who can fix it. Don't waste your time. Call that guy.
And they are not going to let you. They are not going to let me do that because they're going to suppress your vote. They're going to figure out a way to cheat you. They're going to figure out a way to, even though we can't prove it, we're going to tell you that.
Even though there's 91 felony accounts against me, that's just a witch hunt. They're doing that to put me in jail so I can't be your president and do your work and save our country.
Right. And we have a bunch of politicians who have absolutely, on the Republican side, and listen, on the Democrats, this is not just a Republican thing, but you have people.
Don't say anything nasty about Mike Johnson. I warned everybody about Mike Johnson. He's not a politician.
Who will put themselves and their ideology in front of this country. And in front of, because it's not, again, to them, it's not about public service. It's about money. It's about staying powerful. It's about staying popular. It's about staying in a position to tell that person that you're being disaffected. Poor you.
And you want to send money to Israel and to Ukraine, and I say, as a Republican, not till we settle the border. Okay, let's negotiate. No, we're not negotiating. No, we're not going to talk about it. We just want you to settle the border thing. Yeah, but how are we going to do that? Let's talk about the budget and let's talk about who enforces it. No, not going to do that. Just fix the border. Well, I'm talking about fixing the
We want
border,
to settle the border. It's we want to settle the border our way.
which is just to talk about it and blame it on you.
We don't want to compromise. We don't want to come together with a deal. We want it to be settled our way. And if you don't settle it our way, if you try to come up with something that's not, if you try to come up with something that's not in the Bible, because I rule by the Bible.
And so we're going to take all the Republicans from the House of Representatives and put them on trailways buses and drive them to Texas, where bad things can happen to a Republican. Never mind what history teaches you. If you take all the Republicans down to Texas in trailways buses, have a little party at the border, put on a show for Joe Biden and the Democrats and the undecided voters, have the good people of Texas get their guns, take the safety off, then we're ready for some real show business. You're ready for some entertainment.
I don't know how this governor in Texas isn't in jail, to be honest with you. I don't know how in the world that this is allowed to happen. What this guy is doing is using these people. It's criminal. It's certainly not. It's certainly not Christian. That's for sure.
Where's this bus going? Milwaukee. Could I wait for the next bus? Des Moines. Could I wait? Is anybody going west? Anybody going east? Anybody going to a city where I can get a job? No, we're not sending you to Philadelphia. We're sending you to Lincoln, Nebraska. Well, I don't really want to go there.
And then what they do on top of it is when the New York City passes a law that says that we can't take any more migrants in. We don't have the so they have an executive order. They say, okay, we can't do it. What does the governor do as a person who is sworn to uphold the law?
Sends them to New Jersey.
Sends them to New Jersey, and it gives them car fare to get into New York. The you know, people say that we have to unite behind something, that we have to pull this country together and unite behind something. And I got to tell you, Michael, I don't know that we can. I don't know that this country can unite anymore.
Well, you know, the idea that we united behind World War II is a fallacy. It's a myth. There were 30 to 40% of the people who were pro-Germany, not just casually interested in what Hitler was doing, but decided that he had the right idea.
Yeah.
And there were 70% to 80% who wanted no involvement in World War II whatsoever. It was Britain's problem. Let the Germans wipe them out. What do we care? We have no interest in Great Britain surviving this war. Survival of the fittest. What are you going to do? You're going to prop up the weakest one? That doesn't make any sense. Let's give Germany a chance. They've got some great ideas. That was the United States prior to Pearl Harbor. Now, all that got very quiet after the Japanese did us a favor, actually, because if they hadn't bombed Pearl Harbor, we wouldn't have entered the war for a lot longer. The profile of who was winning and who was losing would have changed dramatically. And it wouldn't have been easy for the United States, with all its might and all its money and all its numbers, to just sweep into Europe, North Africa, Italy, and change the face of history. It was just luck that we got in when we did, because the mood was to prevent that from happening.
Right, and people forget that this country in the 20s and 30s, especially in the 30s, wanted to be isolationist. We didn't want anything to do with anybody.
Don't even come over here, especially if you're Italian or Irish.
Right. We had enough of immigrants. We had enough of people coming over here. We didn't want people coming over here. We had enough problems with the black people.
We told them we're full. We got no place to put you. You got a huge country. Yeah, but we're going to use it for something, and it ain't going to be for you.
Yeah, we're going to put seedy motels up on the side. We're going to build an interstate system in the 50s. You just watch.
Route 66. It's a dream, but it's my dream, and it's going to happen.
66A is a dream too, but it's becoming reality.
Have they started paving?
Not yet, but they're mixing the asphalt.
They're leveling the dirt road.
Right. They're using the one road grader that they have.
You know where they park that road grader at night?
Well, they they keep it going 24 hours because they're afraid if they shut it off, it'll never start again.
So they leave the engine running. They fuel in motion.
Well, they're committed to building that road in Slovakia.
I'd like to see them try, before they get all crazy about 66A, just build a frontage road and show me you can do it. But
anyway, the message, I think, from the first part of our show here, the first 46 minutes of our show, is that if you want to save this thing that we call the United States, if you want to save democracy, this may be the year that no matter how old you are, no matter how you feel about the other guys, no matter how you feel about, if you're a Republican, how you feel about Democrats, or if you're a Democrat, how you feel about Republicans, we have to figure out a way to not let something terrible happen and to not let this country fall further into the abyss that it's falling into.
The only way to change that is by voting, the only legal way.
Well,
because the folks with shotguns in the town square will not get the results they're looking for.
I agree with that, but we also have to demand transparency in elections. We also have to make sure that all of these people that have been put into these positions of power as precinct captains and all this other kind of stuff in the Republican Party, or have become secretaries of state, or have become election commissioners,
they've turned themselves into grimy cheats.
That there's transparency, that what is been voted on is truly what is, because the louder they scream election fraud, the more they're trying to figure out how to commit it.
Their new line is, elections don't work. Why should we even try them? Why should we even have them? Why should we go to the trouble of counting? It's all fixed. It doesn't work. It's not a measurement of what the people want.
Except in a state that you win. Now, if you win, everything works out okay, right?
You understand perfectly. It's the Pete Rose in politics.
Tell them what they want, man. Tell them, wash their face, make them sound good.
By the way, at the Cheesecake Factory here in Pasadena on Colorado Boulevard in Old Town, which, by the way, is Route 66, I sat at a table next to Pete Rose and his family. And he was wearing a Cincinnati hat, white one with a white C. And we're eating, not saying anything. He looks at me, catches my eye. I look at him and catch his eye, and I give him the, "How you doing, Pete?" And he gives me the nod. And that was our conversation. I didn't tell him we had interviewed him. I didn't tell him that I admired his baseball abilities and was sad about his inability to control his other habits. But it was funny to be that close to him and see that he was used to fending off. "Hey, Pete Rose, can you sign this for me?"
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, get it. People get it all the time.
Nobody did it that day. Strangely enough, I was waiting to see if he had to fend off an admirer or someone who just knew who he was. but it was interesting to be there. He didn't seem the least bit happy or pleased to be in the Cheesecake Factory having lunch with his family.
Yeah, there's demons inside that guy. There's something going on there. I don't know what it is. Maybe he's just such a street guy. It's sad.
And also, it's embarrassing to be a public figure like that and be judged every day for something you did a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah. And he at some point is gonna have. I mean, it's just a tragic, sad situation. Not as sad as somebody sleeping in a tent under a freeway,
That's
but it's
sadder.
a sad situation in its own
You don't
in its
meet
own
many.
space where it is.
You don't meet many freeway sleepers at the Cheesecake Factory.
No, not many at all. Are you anxiously waiting for the Jeffrey Epstein list to be released? Or could you care less who's on that list?
No, let's have it. Let's have the list. But what is
Oh
the
no, I
source?
don't have the list. I do know that there is a heck of a battle going on now between Aaron Rodgers and Jimmy Kimmel. Because Rodgers evidently said on the Pat McAfee show that a lot of people ought to be worried about that list, including Jimmy Kimmel, who he says will be named in that list.
I just want Pat McAfee to put his damn arms down. Just sit there like a human being and get your arms out of the air. He can't talk without waving his arms. And I find I can't even take 30 seconds of Pat McAfee is more than I want in my entire lifespan.
Well, I guess 150 people have been redacted from the court filings. Their names are going to be released. Aaron Rodgers implied that Kimmel would be among those named during an appearance on the Pat McAfee show on Tuesday. That's supposed to be coming out soon. There's a lot of people, including Jimmy Kimmel, are really hoping that doesn't come out, Rodgers said. And of course, Kimmel then reposted a clip of that segment from the McAfee show on X. Does anybody post on X? I guess Jimmy Kimmel does. And it seems that Kimmel is ready to take Rodgers to court. I don't know if he can win that case because they're both public figures, so it makes the bar of libel a lot higher.
I hope Aaron Rodgers doesn't sustain an injury going into the courtroom because on big days he has trouble with staying healthy.
Yeah, so Rodgers says he will pop some sort of bottle when Epstein Associates list is released, and he says that Jimmy Kimmel will be named. So I don't know. I think it's. I mean, you know me. I'm not a big Aaron Rodgers fan. I don't care what it's.
I think we if we had to choose, we would choose Jimmy Kimmel for lunch. You want lunch with Aaron Rodgers or Jimmy Kimmel?
No, I'll go with Jimmy Kimmel.
I'll go with Jimmy Kimmel. Where are we going? Cantor's. Let's go to Cantor's and get some matzo ball soup.
Go somewhere. Jimmy Kimmel replies on X. For the record, I've not met, flown with, visited, or had any contact whatsoever with Epstein, nor will you find my name on any list other than the clearly phony nonsense that soft-brained wackos like yourself can't seem to distinguish from reality. Your reckless words put my family in danger. Keep it up, and we will debate the facts further in court. I'm with Kimmel on this to a certain degree, but I also, when your job is making fun of other people,
caution.
When you come out and every night and talk about this person, that person, the other person, it makes it hard to really say that Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he's made fun of Aaron Rodgers on the show.
Apparently, it cut to the quick.
Yeah, it's hard to say when you make fun of people for a living, when you say things about people for a living, when you show pictures of Trump in with no clothes on and that kind of stuff, that when somebody flips the page on you a little bit, that you should be upset about it. As much as I like Jimmy Kimmel, as much as I think Aaron Rodgers is an idiot and that he's probably spreading false rumors. What happens if Kimmel's name is on that list? What would happen?
I hope Pat McAfee's name is on that list.
He'd have a lot of splaining to do, wouldn't he, Lucy?
You better explain.
You got a lot of splaining to do.
It's not in defense of Jimmy Kimmel, but if you got to do a show every night, and he does, it's easy to use what's happening in your real life or what people say about you in the material that you generate for the show. It's very tempting. It's much harder to just never make a mention of it ever.
Well, I just think, Michael, that listen, we've been in that position. When you satirize people, when you make your living doing that, when you are
like all my Seahawks.
Well, yeah, but if somebody did an All My Mikey and Vinnie, we wouldn't be able to get upset about it, would we?
No, you got to let it go.
You got to just say, well, that's the price you pay.
Comes with the territory.
Now, if somebody goes after your kids or something like that, that's a whole different story.
True.
But again, I see Jimmy Kimmel getting upset, but I also see that he does it on a nightly. I mean, I watch him every night, so I know what he's doing.
Well, where's this list? Where's this list? Where's it been all this time, and why are they releasing it now?
Because there have been several public information suits. Every website in the world that does politics is trying to get a hold of this stuff because it's dynamite.
And what's the source? I mean, is it
it's his black book. It's Epstein's records that he kept of who he was servicing, who he was flying around to different places. Everybody, you know what they say in Goodfellas, don't write it down.
Keep it all up here.
Yeah, no, you don't. You write it down.
Didn't I just tell you not to write it down? Yeah, but I had to write that down to remember.
I had to write that down. I forgot what you said. It's hilarious how many of these guys wind up writing stuff down.
Well, they wanted that life of a wise guy, but they weren't cut out for it. They didn't have the head for numbers that they should have had.
That's what they tell you. They tell you don't write it down. Just like they tell you don't talk on your home phone. I mean, now it's different.
Except to your babysitter when she's stirring the
exactly. Sauce. Don't go back and get your babysitter's lucky hat. I'm not flying to Pittsburgh. That should have told me something right there. Oh my Lord.
Well, Vinnie, I'm gonna go be a babysitter now.
All right, you go be a babysitter. We will be back Friday at 10:10 with another exciting adventures of Superman. No, that's wrong.
Yeah.
I gotta go get a shave, man.
That's what you wish were happening.
I realize how scrofty. Looking at me here for the last hour, I realize how scrofty I look. So I got to go get. Well, I can't get a face replant, so I got to at least go shave and make myself look presentable. But I will catch up with you Friday morning if the Lord's willing, and the creek don't rise for a Freaky Fractious Friday. I know we were all over the place today, but that's what we usually are, all over the place, right?
We change our format every hour.
On the hour. All right, man. Good to see your face, man. I will catch up with you on Friday.
Enjoy your shave. Make it slow and luxurious.
I'm gonna, maybe I'll go to the barber shop and get a shave. I haven't done that in a
Ooh.
while. It's a very relaxing.
I've never done that.
It's a very relaxing thing, Michael. I got to tell you, it's not a massage, but it's pretty close to it. It's a hot towel, and they take the blade, and then
Yeah, but I don't take the blade. That's the problem. Somebody else has got the blade.
Well, you got to make sure that you go to a barber that likes you.
My level of trust is disturbingly low.
And many barbers are right wingers, so I don't know. Sometimes, and they don't do shaves at sports clips. So,
damn.
All right, man. Peace, love, Manischewitz, baby.
Let me tell you, it's quite a wine. See you, Ben.
See you Friday. Bye-bye, Michael. Thank you all for listening to our little radio show here that we do every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Take care.